So, it feels like the last month, not even really the last 3 weeks, it's been like living 3 decades. Every single day has been years in the making, it feels like, in terms of the news events, the things that we've seen happen from attempted assassinations to a major party candidate stepping out. And I look at all this and I say that the only word I can think of is really chaos. We have a lot of chaos brewing around us. And I feel like a broken record because we talk about this all the time, right? That there's constant chaos and there doesn't seem to ever be a lull. It doesn't calm down. It just metastasizes, gets stranger in different ways. And I think this is going to be the most uncommon election cycle that we've ever seen in our lifetime, maybe even in history. I don't know, in American history, but we will see. We're very early still in the election season, but obviously the thing that happened this week, the Olympic chaos, the protesting, the people very frustrated over what appeared to be imagery that looked like the Last Supper. And so here's the thing about this. Christians are called to love God and love others. And I think there's a real misunderstanding a lot of times when people speak out about something. People were saying, "Oh, you want this banned? You're trying to ban art." It's like I never talked about banning anything. What I said was we should respect one another, and I don't think taking religious imagery, or let's say it wasn't intentional, taking imagery that appeared to look like a very famous scene, one of the most famous scenes in human history, that maybe doing that is going to not come across very well. But I'm not here to debate that. Here's what frustrates me, because I believe wholeheartedly we have to love God, love others. And that means disagree. Like, look, we're all adults, we can disagree. What I don't like is the gaslighting, this notion that something happens, and we see this all the time in schools with school boards and parents who are frustrated. Parents will call out an issue or allege that something is happening. They'll be told that's not happening. Absolutely not. You're making that up. You're trumping up these charges. Then when it's proved to be happening, the next step we see is all of a sudden when people are backed in a corner and it's been proven that this thing is happening or has happened, well, what's wrong with that? Why do you have a problem with that? Are you a bigot? And so we move from this denial into this other form of gaslighting where we're actually saying, oh, no, it's true and it's fine. And if you don't like it, there's something wrong with you. And that's something that I find incredibly frustrating in all of this. Again, we love God, we love others. And by the way, for those who aren't Christians, the idea of loving God, that means loving truth. We throw this word love around when we look at what Jesus teaches, because a lot of people have a lot of opinions about what Jesus has taught on love. Let's be very clear. We are to be known by our love. We are called to love. But when Jesus is asked in Matthew about the most important commandment, he says to love God with all your heart. That means abiding by God's rules, not our own rules, God's standards, not our own standards. So when we love God, we stand by his truth, right? Then we also love others. And so we should love others no matter what. Scripture is very clear. You love your enemies. That means people with whom you may disagree. You care for them, you feed them, you clothe them. Christianity has a rich history of that. And so I know a lot of people who are seeing frustration about the Olympics among Christians are telling them, just get out there and love people. It's like, well, Christians do a great job of loving people on the whole. In fact, most organizations, most charitable organizations, including colleges and universities in this country, the root of them came from Christianity and faith and biblical truth, including our laws, right? They were also rooted in many ways on the Judeo Christian tradition. So, I could go on for 20 minutes about this, but I think it's that gaslighting that becomes very frustrating to people, because first you told me it wasn't happening. When I prove you wrong, you then see that it's happening. And now you're turning it on me and saying, well, if you're not okay with it, there's something wrong with you. Oh, you're just stupid. You're an idiot. You don't know history. This is not how you dialogue and debate. If something is happening and people don't like it and they have an opinion about it, that's fine. Nobody's trying to ban anything. I think people are simply saying, this hurt my heart. It was offensive. I didn't particularly enjoy it. And I'd appreciate it if you didn't constantly look for ways to insult my faith. That's not a tall order. It should be pretty easy to not go out of our ways to insult one another intentionally. And if it was unintentional, apologizing and moving on, not gaslighting people, not attacking people, not going after people of goodwill who are simply sharing what they think and what they feel about a situation. So I'll leave it there. But I think it's the gaslighting and the lies, that are really upsetting people more than the initial imagery. It's, and again, we see it again and again, and it's a tactic and a blueprint that needs to be called out because it's weak minded. It's what people do when they don't have strong arguments. And if you really believe that your viewpoint or your position or your imagery or your artwork or whatever it is the right way to present something, then why don't you argue that instead of diminishing and demeaning people for their religious viewpoints and for their First Amendment right to speak out about them? And for the Christians doing this to other Christians, I would just argue that you can look it up for yourself. The Wrap has a statement from producers of the show who claimed, according to the Wrap and other outlets, that the original inspiration for that Olympic imagery was The Last Supper by Da Vinci. So, again, we can debate this all day long. I know the artistic director has said something different. Like, let's just respect one another, but let's not gaslight one another, and let's not lie. Let's be truthful about what is going on. That's my rant.